Margot Morrell, the author of Shackleton's Way and the brand new book, Reagan's Journey, Lessons from a Remarkable Career. Margot, thank you so much for coming on the program tonight.
Hey, my pleasure, Cam. Thanks for having me.
It's great talking to you, and I apologize. I really had hoped to get all the way through the book before we had you on the program, but I'm only about halfway through. But clearly this is not a standard biography of Ronald Reagan. So how would you explain the book that you've written? How would you describe it?
Oh, gosh, that's a great question. It's really, I think of it as history with a purpose. If you want to read a biography, you want to learn a little about history, and basically you want to apply it to your own lives, I've done the work for you.
Yeah, I mean, to the point that there are actually like some little worksheets in the book as well.
Yep, exactly.
I thought that was very, very cool. So you identify ways that, or the techniques that Ronald Reagan developed in order to succeed in, as you point out, the very different careers that he had over his long life.
It started out to be your classic leadership book, Reagan's Journey, leadership lessons from the great communicator. And while I did the research on it, though, it became evident that was not what was really interesting about him. What was incredibly fascinating about him was how he managed his career and his life. And it wasn't that it was so easy for him. In fact, 4 times his life slammed into a brick wall. But what made Reagan was that every single time he picked himself up and kept going.
And that is so important. But did he always rely on the I guess the same tools to help him get back up and move forward, or were there different responses to different challenges in his life?
Well, there of course are lots of lessons to learn, but in 1932, he graduates from college. It's the dead bottom of the Depression. Unemployment is at 24% that summer. The Dow hits bottom at 41 points, but he has this series of conversations with his mentor that summer, who's a very successful businessman from Kansas City. And Reagan is kind of pressed on the subject because he really wants Altshuler, the guy's name is Sid Altshuler, advice and maybe to open some doors for him. And one night, Altshuler asked him this life-changing question, which is, well, what do you actually want to do? And Reagan, again, because he wants the guy's advice, actually takes a couple of days and sleepless nights to think through what his talents and strengths are and what he really wants to do. And that's basically sets a pattern for his life. So when his movie career collapses in the early 50s, he does the same thing. At the end of his contract with a relationship with General Electric, he does the same thing. He stops, he takes the time to think about what's worked well for him, what hasn't, what he wants to do, what his greatest strengths are, and that's the lesson that we can all learn from him.
One of the things that I thought was fascinating, actually two things that I want to mention. One, it seemed like Reagan was a guy who built these networks around him, and it seems like I think I was reading Malcolm Gladwell was talking about one of the secrets of success is people who can establish these networks as opposed to being sort of a spoke, they're a hub. Was Reagan a hub? I mean, did he surround himself and get to know as many different people as possible and as many different walks of life as possible so that he could rely on, call on these people when necessary?
Absolutely. After he comes out of the service in 1945, he clearly, again, is thinking about, well, what am I going to do to recharge my career? And at that point, he gets involved with the Screen Actors Guild, which is populated by a really first-class crowd of people. And he gets more and more involved with them. He starts networking and connecting and developing these relationships with people who give him great advice along the way. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite moments in writing the book or working on the book was somebody happened to tell me a story about how he was in L.A. when the day that Reagan, or the day after Reagan died, and he took the time to go up to the Reagan Library for to pay his respects. Mm-hmm. And he commented that halfway up this sort of impromptu memorial to Reagan had sprung up, and there was a flower arrangement sent by the NRA right next to one from the Screen Actors Guild, and this person was commenting that it just spoke to what huge and varied life that Reagan had led, and how he had just an amazing reach in terms of contacts.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other, kind of going along hand in hand with that was a quote that I read that I'm paraphrasing here, but basically Reagan, it seemed like he never wanted to be the smartest person at the table.
Oh, yeah.
He always wanted to have smarter people than him that he could learn from.
Yeah. He makes the point again and again, and he says that in his autobiography that, he always saw his job as hiring a first-class group of people and unleashing them to do their jobs. And I think that's one of the most, to me, interesting chapters in the book, Unleashing the Power of a Team, where it's, he reaches this turning point in his life, and how does he navigate his way through that? And, of course, it's essentially by doing precisely that, tapping into a really great team and letting them do what they do best.
Yeah. Well, again, it's a fascinating book, Margot. I can't wait to finish it, and I thank you so much for coming on the program. It's a great way to learn more about Ronald Reagan. I've read a couple of Reagan biographies, but I'm still learning new stuff from your book, and it's so easy to translate this to our own lives and to help learn those lessons. So again, congratulations on a great read.
Thanks very much, Cam.
Thank you, Margot. Look forward to having you on again very soon.
Thanks.
Margot Morrell, the author of Reagan's Journey, Lessons from a Remarkable Career, with us here on NRAnews.com and Sirius XM Patriot.